I went to great lengths to win Oscar over, but he never treated me well. He never made our relationship public, never took the initiative to share his life with me, and never showed me even the smallest bit of care. At first, I thought he was just reserved, until that day, when I heard someone ask him, "Oscar, why does that old classmate of yours keep coming to see you? You two aren't dating, are you? Isn't the beautiful Misty chasing you? We thought you two were the couple." After a long silence, Oscar finally spoke. "We're not." I picked a time and asked Oscar out. Then I seriously discussed it with him. "Oscar, can we pretend we never dated?" A flicker of impatience crossed his face. "What drama are you starting now?" "I'm not starting drama. Just take it as me begging you. I can't let my friends know I'm in this kind of relationship. They'd laugh themselves to death. It's too embarrassing." Chapter 1. Pursuing Oscar was the boldest thing I had ever done in my teenage years. He was always at the top of his class. And he was handsome. Falling for him did not need any special reason. I never hid my feelings for him. One weekend, I confessed to him. Back then, Oscar said, "If we can get into the same university, we'll talk about it then." In truth, that already counted as a gentle rejection, but he probably never expected that I would actually do it. At that time, I wanted so badly to get into the same university as Oscar that I studied day and night. Forgetting to eat or sleep, my grades shot up all the way, and I became the biggest dark horse in class. When the admission results came out, I was lucky enough to get in by the narrowest margin. After starting university, I began pursuing Oscar again. Finally, 2 months later, he accepted my confession and became my boyfriend. Oscar was reserved by nature. He never held my hand on campus, and even on the phone, I was usually the one taking the initiative. I truly liked him. I even liked that cold, distant air of his. Love was supposed to go both ways, and I thought he liked me too. Recently, I had been busy with a group project. As soon as I finally had some free time, I quietly went to look for him. I had Oscar's class schedule and knew where his classes were, so I went to his classroom early, wanting to surprise him. But to my surprise, Oscar had arrived even earlier. There were only a few people in the classroom, all boys. Sitting beside Oscar was his roommate. "Oscar, why does that old classmate of yours keep coming to see you? You two aren't dating, are you? Isn't the beautiful Misty chasing you? We thought you two were the couple." The classroom door was slightly ajar. My hand, which had been about to push it open, suddenly froze. By old classmate, they meant me. At first, when I came to see Oscar, I had indeed used the excuse of being his old classmate. But now, Oscar and I had already been together for more than a month. I stood there lost in my thoughts for a long while, only to hear Oscar answer in a brief, simple word. "No." I knew it. How could that 4 eyes compare to Misty? Forget everything else, even taking Misty out would look better. 4 eyes. There were plenty of people who wore glasses, but Oscar did not refute his roommate. It was as if he had not heard the contempt in the other boy's words at all. My heart went completely cold. That day, I did not appear in front of Oscar for the next 2 days. I did not take the initiative to message him either. When I went back and looked through our chat history, most of the time, I was the one sharing things with him. Oscar only replied to my messages with a few brief words. His social media was clean too. There was no trace of him being in a relationship. Back then, when I wanted to make our relationship official on social media, he said he was not used to showing off his love life. Thinking back on it now, perhaps it was simply because he did not like me enough, or perhaps he even thought I was not good enough for him. Chapter 2. 2 more days passed before I asked Oscar to meet me in a quiet corner of campus. After I arrived, I kept looking around, afraid I might spot someone I knew nearby. Oscar arrived late. When he saw me, he did not ask why I had not messaged him these past few days, nor did he care what I had been doing. "Irene, what did you want to see me about?" Oscar stood 2 steps away from me and said coldly, "I'm meeting my teammates later." Oscar had teamed up with some of his classmates to enter a competition. If I remembered correctly, one of those teammates was Misty, the beautiful girl his roommate had mentioned last time. I lowered my eyes and remembered that Oscar had once mentioned her to me before. He had said she was a very lively female classmate. and even complained that she was too noisy. It turned out the signs had been there all along. "Oscar, there's something I want to discuss with you," I said, looking at him seriously. "I've thought about it, and I still don't think we're right for each other. Can we just act like we never dated? Not break up, erase the whole relationship." I really did not want to accept such a terrible first love, but a flicker of impatience crossed Oscar's face. "What drama are you starting now?" He did not take me seriously. Back when I was pursuing him, my confessions had come at him like they cost nothing. I always told him I liked him, clung to him in chats, and timed things perfectly so I could ask him out for meals. Because of that, Oscar probably thought this was just another trick to get his attention, but I truly did not want to stay tangled up with him anymore. So I simply said it more bluntly. "I'm not starting drama. Just take it as me begging you. I can't let my friends know I was in this kind of relationship. They'd laugh themselves to death. It's too embarrassing." I meant every word. After we started dating, although I had kept it a secret from my old high school classmates, I had still bragged about it to a few childhood friends. I bragged to them that I was dating a tall, handsome top student, and I even said I would introduce him to them sometime. If they found out I had dated someone who never took me seriously at all, wouldn't that become part of my permanent record? 10 years later, they could still bring it up to laugh at me. I was vain. Back then, when I pursued Oscar, it was not only because I liked him. Of course it was also because being with him made me look good. Compared to men, I liked myself more. Indulging his coldness and avoidance was, at its core, me degrading myself. A love that came at the cost of degrading myself was not worth having. "Irene, are you done making a scene? I'm busy. I really don't have time to play these childish games with you. If you insist on breaking up, then let's break up." "It's not a breakup," I corrected him. "It's pretending we never dated." Oscar sneered. "Fine, as you wish." After saying that, he turned to leave. I stopped him. "Then, can you delete our chat history?" Oscar was probably truly furious. Not only did he delete our chat history right in front of me, he also deleted me as a contact. Even when he left, his posture was still proud and composed. It seemed he had truly never liked me, but I also felt relieved. Luckily, when I had given him gifts in the past, I had never written any outrageously lovesick messages. Otherwise, I would have had to shamelessly ask him to return them now. I deleted the chat history and photos on my phone too. Now, there was no evidence left to prove that Oscar and I had ever dated. There was still a little melancholy in my heart, but that tiny bit of sadness completely disappeared when I heard that Oscar and the girl pursuing him had stayed alone in the lab until late at night. Oh my God, thank goodness I erased that relationship. If other people found out my boyfriend had done something so lacking in boundaries, how embarrassing would that be? Chapter 3. Being single again did not feel any different. My roommates, however, seemed to notice that something was off and asked cautiously, "Irene, why haven't you been going out on dates lately? You and your boyfriend." Before she could finish, I interrupted her with a bright smile. "I'm not dating anyone." "Huh?" I just wasn't used to university life at first, so I went to catch up with an old classmate. Anyway, they did not know who I had been going out to meet before. My 3 roommates exchanged glances. In the end, our dorm leader spoke first. "I saw you putting on makeup every time you went out, so I thought you were going on dates." "Didn't you say you were going on dates before?" I was joking. I just started learning how to do makeup, so of course I needed chances to practice. "I put on makeup when I go out with you guys too." My cheeky grin successfully fooled all my roommates. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the roommate in the bed next to mine suddenly let out an exaggerated gasp. "Irene, someone actually asked me for your contact info before. I thought you were dating someone, so I didn't give it to him. If I'd known, I would have asked you first." "Really? Was he handsome?" "If he wasn't, don't give it to him." Another roommate chimed in. "I don't know. He's a sophomore. I added him before because of something, but we don't usually chat. And I've never met him. How would I know if he's handsome or not?" My roommate was very enthusiastic. "How about I ask around?" I laughed. "No need. I feel especially motivated to study lately. I'm going to the library first." "You've been going out lately just to study at the library?" "Damn it. I'm going too." No secretly studying without us. I'm going too. Let's go. Let's go. There was not the slightest trace of heartbreak on me, although for more than a year, my gaze had always fallen on Oscar. Giving him up did not make me feel as if the sky had collapsed. People who love themselves too much cannot tolerate being looked down on in an intimate relationship. Even when I had been pursuing Oscar, I had still believed that he and I were equals. I did not take the initiative to contact Oscar again, but since we were on the same campus, I still often ran into him, whether on campus or in the cafeteria. The girl named Misty was always by his side. She was indeed bright and beautiful. Like me, she also liked to chatter away. The difference was that Oscar, who had always been quiet and reserved around me, would lean in to listen to her and laugh and chat with her. Once again, I felt grateful that I had never made my relationship with Oscar public. He had not been satisfied with me either, so he had kept up his single guy image all along. If anyone found out I had been in a relationship like that, I would be too embarrassed to show my face. Still, I was very grateful to my young, love-struck self from back then. If I had not worked hard enough at that time, how could I have gotten into this university now? Men were unreal and ever-changing. A degree was real and permanent. Oscar and Misty were a rare good-looking pair in our year. Naturally, they drew attention when they stood together. I could even hear rumors about this old classmate of mine from other people. Yes, old classmate. I refused to acknowledge that he was my first love. So naturally, he would not be my ex-boyfriend either. Day after day passed, and I immersed myself in studying, until one day, I saw on the campus forum that a senior from my major was recruiting new members for a social science research project. The topic was about intangible cultural heritage, and the birthplace of that particular heritage was not far from my hometown. I could go there to conduct field research during winter break. Without thinking too much, I added that senior's contact information. Chapter 4. I soon added that senior as a contact. The first message he sent was, "You're Irene?" I was confused. "I am. Why?" "Nothing. It's a beautiful name." Even the way he spoke sounded pleasant. This senior, who was only 1 year above me, was named Morgan. He sent me a lot of related materials. "You can look through these first. Ask me if there's anything you don't understand." Not long after, he added me to a group chat. Besides me, there were also 2 senior girls in the group. The senior girls were very nice. They shared which food stall in the cafeteria was good, and even sent me the delivery places they had been secretly saving. We picked a suitable time for the 4 of us to meet in the cafeteria. But the moment I saw Morgan, I still froze for a second. His hair was slightly long, styled in a wolf cut. His skin was fair. His nose bridge was high and straight. His eyes were bright, and his figure was slim and tall. The senior named Lola put an arm around my shoulders and said familiarly, "Little Junior, isn't Senior Morgan handsome? He's the treasure of our year." In our major, it seemed normal for there to be more girls than boys. Among the few boys we had, someone with looks like his could indeed be called a treasure. "Stop teasing our junior," Morgan said, his eyes curved with a smile. "Have you ever treated me like a treasure?" "How have we not? Last year, right when school started, I was already betting on who you'd end up with. Do you know how badly you made me lose?" According to Lola, this senior Morgan had plenty of admirers because he was both handsome and good-tempered. And yet, for more than a year, he had somehow managed to keep his single guy image intact. The other senior was named Nadia. She had clearly joined the bet too and clicked her tongue. "It's been over a year. I've already dated and broken up. But you still haven't liked a single person. Don't tell me you have some unforgettable crush hidden in your heart." Morgan laughed out loud. "You two should read fewer romance novels and more academic papers. Junior, you should study hard too." The senior in front of me looked at me gently. I nodded. When people got busy, time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, winter break arrived. Morgan and I were heading in the same direction. So we went back together. He lived in the neighboring city, and we agreed to do field research during the break. As for Lola and Nadia, the 2 seniors would be in charge of organizing the literature for now. On the way back, I looked at the scenery outside the window and felt a little emotional. It was ironic. I had once thought that when winter break came, the person sitting beside me would be Oscar. In the end, it was a senior I had not known for long. Irene. See you in a few days. Morgan got off the high-speed train one stop before me and smiled as he said goodbye. Our research topic was Suzhou embroidery. It was not exactly niche, and there was even a dedicated cultural heritage center for it. For the first few days, Morgan and I went there every day. We even signed up for a class with one of the masters. Unfortunately, I really had no talent for it. My embroidery came out crooked and messy. Morgan, on the other hand, actually made something that looked proper. Senior, your embroidery is really pretty. I leaned close beside him and stared at it. Thank you. Morgan looked at me with a smile. Your work is very cute too. He really did not have to compliment it. After several days of research and interviews with a few artisans, Morgan and I also took the chance to walk around the area. Irene, a voice suddenly called out from behind me. I turned around and saw my desk mate from senior year running over. What a coincidence. She looked back and forth between me and Morgan with great interest, then asked nosily, boyfriend? Chapter 5. Don't talk nonsense. I glanced at Morgan and explained. This is my senior, Morgan. We came here for field research. Senior. This is my friend, Maya. Morgan seemed good-tempered with everyone. He smiled and said, hello. For the rest of the walk, Maya linked her arm through mine and whispered in my ear. Bestie, are you trying to kill me? Your situationship is this handsome? Situationship? Morgan considerately fell a few steps behind us. From that distance, he probably could not hear what we were saying. He's not my situationship. I said, really? I think this senior of yours is definitely interested in you. The moment high school classmates met, it turned into a gossip exchange. By the way, didn't you get into the same university as Oscar? How come he's with someone else now? Didn't you see Oscar's social media post? I don't know what competition he joined, but in the group photo with his teammates, he and a girl were standing in the center. They were really close. Ever since we deleted each other, I had not checked Oscar's social media in a long time. In fact, he had never posted much before either. Is that so? That's nice. Maya looked at me suspiciously. Didn't you like Oscar before? I thought he was interested in you too. You two actually didn't get together? I smiled. I was immature back then. I mistook admiration for love. I won't do that anymore. No matter what. That short-lived relationship had already been deleted from my life with one click. My old classmate glanced back at Morgan and easily understood me. Oh, if I had such a perfectly sculpted and gentle senior in front of me, I'd probably move on too. Maya and I said goodbye at the next intersection. She was still smiling at me with that you lucky girl look, making me too embarrassed to even look at Morgan. To be honest, Morgan had helped me a lot during this time. He answered every question I had about the literature one by one, without the slightest trace of impatience. My friend was joking. Don't take it seriously. If I take it seriously, can it become true? I'm joking. This senior really did have a lively and humorous personality. No wonder he got along so well with the girls in his class. As New Year approached, our field research temporarily came to an end. We had collected almost enough materials, so Morgan and I switched to communicating online, until my few chaotic childhood friends sent me a message. Comrade Irene, we plan to meet with you on the 5th day of the new year. Please make sure you and your handsome top student boyfriend are prepared. My vision went dark. Chapter 6. Inside the hot pot restaurant filled with rising steam, I pressed my palms together and bowed to Morgan across from me. Senior, please, I'm begging you. You're the most handsome and outstanding man I can find. Just help me this once. I'll do anything to repay you. The young man across from me laughed. So you bragged to your friends that you were dating someone, but now you can't produce a boyfriend? I nodded. If you don't have a boyfriend, why did you make such a big claim? I paused, then answered with absolutely no shame. Because I'm vain. Is that a crime? Morgan nodded and casually picked up some sliced beef from the pot, placing it into my bowl. What if I don't agree? Then I'll keep begging you. I had no other tricks left. Hearing that, Morgan's eyes curved slightly. Then he put on an act and sighed. I knew there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. He agreed. On the 5th day of the new year, I arrived at the meeting place and saw that Morgan was already there early. He was wearing a black coat. As he walked toward me, It felt as if background music had started playing in my ears. When he came closer, I said sincerely, "Senior, I acknowledge your status as the hottest guy in the philosophy department." Morgan looked confused. A moment later, he smiled. "Still not in character? What are you calling me?" I looked at him for several seconds before finally smiling. "My handsome one-day boyfriend." "Let's go in." A flicker of surprise flashed through Morgan's eyes, and then I dragged him inside. Originally, I thought a fake couple like us would definitely be full of flaws. But after my childhood friends showed up, Morgan was suddenly like an award-winning actor possessed him. He was considerate in every way, remembered all the preferences I had sent him in advance, and chatted easily with my friends. The entertainment industry had truly lost a natural-born actor. Before one of my childhood friends left, she even leaned close to me and said, "You brat, you've got good taste." On the way back, Morgan asked me, "I think you and your friends have a great relationship. Why lie to them? Wasn't it because I had bragged too soon before?" These childhood friends of mine had parents who all knew one another. Unless something unexpected happened, we would probably still be friends for the next several decades. I did not want every future gathering to turn into them laughing at me for once being blind enough to date someone who never took me seriously. How mortifying. "Don't ask. I already told you I'm extremely vain." Morgan chuckled when he heard that. "All right, then come to me again next time you need help." "Thank you. You're a good person." I don't like being called a good person. Usually, people only say you're a good person to someone they're about to break up with. I was speechless. Winter break ended quickly, and after school started, we had more classes too. This paper on intangible cultural heritage was mainly written by Morgan and me, while the other two senior girls were responsible for the proposal report, the PowerPoint, and so on. Because of that, Morgan and I met more often. Once, we arranged to discuss the paper in the cafeteria. When I turned around, I ran into Oscar. He was walking over while holding Misty's hand. When he had been with me, he had always kept a distance when we walked together and said he felt too embarrassed to hold hands on campus. But when he was with someone else, suddenly he was not embarrassed anymore. Disgusting. I secretly rolled my eyes, and Morgan caught me doing it. Who offended our comrade Irene? He had learned that nickname from my group of childhood friends. "A jerk." Morgan chuckled. If even our good-tempered comrade Irene is this angry, then that jerk must really be trash. This was another good thing about Morgan. When I badmouthed someone, he did not play devil's advocate. No wonder Lola and the others liked hanging out with him. I had heard a little about Oscar dating someone, but what I had not expected was that because Morgan and I had been meeting so often, Oscar misunderstood. That day, when I saw Oscar downstairs from my dorm building, I initially thought it was bad luck and wanted to avoid him. Unexpectedly, he walked straight toward me. "Irene." I froze. "What is it?" Oscar lowered his eyes to look at me. Without any lead-up, he asked, "Are you dating someone?" "Huh? That was not the point. What does that have to do with you?" Oscar paused when he heard that. A moment later, he replied, "I just wanted to remind you that Morgan from your major doesn't have a very good reputation." How ridiculous. I gave him a look that said he should mind his own business, then walked around him and left. Chapter 7. The moment I turned around, I went to ask Lola about it. Lola laughed for a long time before finally saying, "Morgan, there was once a girl who chased him very persistently, so he started a rumor about himself, saying he wasn't into women. Later, he ended up getting pursued by men too. Now people out there say he swings both ways." I was amazed. "Lola, does Morgan really not?" Before I could finish, Lola started blinking at me like her eyes were cramping. As if sensing something, I heard a cool male voice behind me. "Irene, why didn't you ask the person involved?" I immediately folded. "Morgan, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gossiped," Morgan said. "Just because of the gossip? What else?" Morgan left in disappointment. Lola laughed until her stomach hurt. I was confused. "Lola, what are you laughing at?" "Irene, watching karma hit someone is actually pretty satisfying." That made sense. But who was karma hitting? I asked Lola, but she waved me off. Not telling. When the weekend finally arrived, I stayed in bed until noon before getting up. After ordering takeout, I climbed out of bed to wash up. When I finished, my roommate from the bed next to mine also came down yawning. My phone suddenly vibrated. Morgan had sent me a message. Before I could read it clearly, my roommate casually glanced at my screen and let out a surprised sound. "Why does this profile picture look kind of familiar?" "Familiar?" My roommate nodded. "The name looks familiar too." As she spoke, she started scrolling through her own phone. A moment later, she laughed dramatically. "Irene, look, is this the same person?" My roommate had found a chat page with one of her contacts. The last conversation was from last year, stopping right on the page where the other person had asked her for my contact information. "So this is the handsome senior who takes you through your project and sometimes even happens to pass by downstairs from our dorm just to bring you milk tea and little cakes?" My roommate was amazed. "Who said men don't have schemes? Wasn't he bringing me food because he was afraid I'd run away from the project? So he was bribing me?" I was shocked. Writing papers and doing research were truly painful. My roommate. That afternoon, Morgan and I met at the library. He was busy revising the paper, while I stared at him for a long while. Finally, Morgan looked up and said quietly, "If you keep staring, I'll start charging." Stingy. I kept staring anyway. Morgan did not stop me again. After we walked out of the library, Morgan asked, "What do you want for dinner?" I thought for a moment. "Hot pot, Comrade Irene." I must solemnly ask, did hot pot save your life in a past life? You're the one who asked. If it's too much trouble, we can just eat at the cafeteria. Morgan grabbed my backpack and sighed softly. I didn't say we weren't going. Why are you so impatient? Let me borrow an e-bike and take you there. There was only one good hot pot restaurant near our school, and it was far away. Usually, we either took the bus or called a cab. That place was always crowded too. I had only mentioned it casually, yet Morgan was actually willing to go. He really was in deep. Not long after, the two of us appeared at the entrance of the hot pot restaurant. Since it was the weekend, even though we had taken a number in advance, we still waited 20 minutes before being seated. Amid the rising steam, Morgan sat across from me, eating until his lips turned bright red. "Morgan, I have a question for you." "HM?" He looked up at me. "Do you like me?" The next second, Morgan choked across from me and coughed until his face turned red. Chapter 8. I quickly handed him a tissue. After a while, Morgan finally stopped coughing. His face returned to that usual smiling expression, and he even clapped for me in a very proper manner. Congratulations to our comrade Irene for finally discovering the secret that everyone already knew. Wait, what do you mean, everyone already knew? Lola and the others have been laughing at me for months. But why? Why did he like me? Because you're always so full of energy and focus, and you're very cute. Even if other people have similar qualities, they still aren't you. Comrade Irene. Maybe that's just how exclusive feelings are. He was completely open about it. Instead of asking why I like you, Morgan said, looking at me through the rising steam, his eyes shimmering. What about you? Do you like me? Did I? After Oscar, I had spent most of my energy on studying, so I had become a little slow when it came to other things. You don't have to answer me now. Morgan chuckled. Go back and think about it properly. Once I started thinking about it, I was done for. My mind was full of Morgan's bright red lips in the hot pot restaurant. He clearly had not put on any lipstick. I lost sleep on a weekend and only fell asleep around morning. When I woke up, I found several messages from Morgan on my phone. 7:32. Good morning, Comrade Irene. 8 o'clock. Are you up? Want to have breakfast together? 10:13. Want to have lunch together? 11:27. Are you awake? Should I order delivery for you? I yawned and replied with a meme. He replied instantly. Comrade Irene, if you still didn't reply, I was going to think you were planning to give me the cold shoulder. A moment later, I replied, when I'm being pursued by you, do I not have the right to sleep in? Morgan said, Comrade Irene, I fully support your right to sleep in, so can I order delivery for you now? After he laid his feelings out, Morgan's pursuit became much more direct. The milk tea and little cakes that used to be on the way became straightforward acts of affection. Studying together turned into dates. One night, when we came out of the library, it was pouring rain. The two of us shared one umbrella and stood very close together, our bodies inevitably brushing against each other from time to time. Rain splashed beneath our feet. I turned my head and glanced at the person beside me. He was holding the umbrella with one hand and wrapping his other arm around my shoulders, his eyes fixed seriously on the road ahead. Comrade Morgan. HM? Let's date. Morgan stopped walking and turned to look at me. First of all, Comrade Irene, I believe your proposal is highly constructive and has great potential for development. I fully approve. Secondly, did you have to bring it up while we're being attacked by a rainstorm? We look a little miserable. I looked at him with a smile, but when I'm with you on a rainy day, I don't feel miserable. I think it's romantic. The other person under the umbrella looked at me for a long while, then smiled, with a mouth that sweet. Where did you go for training? I didn't. Not long after Morgan and I officially started dating, the paper was almost finished. I asked Lola how she and Nadia had agreed to let me join the project back then. Lola looked at me with a grin. Morgan handled everything from choosing the topic to planning and contacting the advisor. The two of us were basically just helping out. Besides, if we let you join and you couldn't do the work well, he would take responsibility. What opinion could we possibly have? So I ran off to ask Morgan why he had specifically let me join the project. Was it just because of his own selfish motives? Morgan said, at the time, only 2 people contacted me. One was you. The other opened by asking whether I could guarantee an award. If it were you, who would you choose? Then why did you ask my roommate for my contact information before? Oh, I was captivated by your heroic presence when you were shouting slogans during military training. I wanted to pursue you. But your roommate said you were already dating someone. Morgan's taste was truly unique. But at that moment, I said without even blinking. She misunderstood. You're my first love. Morgan's eyes curved into a smile. What a coincidence. You're mine too. Chapter 9. During the days I dated Morgan, he was clingy every single day. The messages on my phone never stopped. His desire to share his life with me was no less than mine. When we walked around campus, he never avoided suspicion either. He had to hold my hand, and he had to carry my bag. According to Lola, the boys in their class complained that Morgan showed off the couple outfits and couple bracelets I gave him in the dorm, and that he was always admiring himself in the mirror. This was what a real boyfriend I could proudly take anywhere looked like. I was very satisfied. Time passed quickly, and summer break arrived. But Morgan and I were not really in a long-distance relationship. Our 2 cities were only a little over 10 minutes apart by high-speed train. The only problem was that while we were happily dating, my senior year classmates suddenly decided to hold a reunion and invited me too. Back then, I had been quite popular. When everyone in the class group chat started signing up for the reunion one after another, several people had already messaged me privately to ask whether I was going. Maya even said, I heard Oscar is bringing his girlfriend. Since you two go to the same university, do you know her? Bringing his girlfriend to introduce her to his high school classmates? I vaguely remembered someone once telling me that deliberately showing off a relationship in front of old classmates felt embarrassing. But was I going to back down from him? I turned around and signed up in the class group chat, then eagerly went to ask my boyfriend about his schedule. Morgan said, received. Comrade Irene, I will dress myself up properly and make sure I make you look good. On the day of the reunion, when I saw Morgan wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, his hair cut in a slightly parted textured fringe, I could not help but curl my lips. How is it? I won't embarrass you, right? Hee hee. It was hard not to feel secretly pleased. Unexpectedly, I showed up with my boyfriend, but Oscar came alone. Maya kept wiggling her eyebrows at me. You said he was just your senior before. I knew there was something unusual between you two. Then she really did have sharp eyes. Maya was very well informed. Soon, she whispered in my ear. Apparently, Oscar had a fight with his girlfriend 2 days ago, and he still hasn't managed to coax her back. Whether he had not managed to coax her back or simply had not tried, no one knew. But I was not the only one who had brought a partner. There was also a couple in our class who had gotten together after the college entrance exams, and everyone teased them. You two really hit it well. Fine. Hiding it from our homeroom teacher was one thing, but you even hid it from us? No wonder you always asked her questions back then. I thought you were just really studious. The young couple being teased blushed bright red. Then, somehow, someone turned the topic to me. When it comes to studying hard, who can beat Irene? She created a miracle in 1 year and even got herself such a handsome boyfriend. Irene, you didn't miss out on either studying or dating. You really got everything. I threw a cushion over and scolded them with a laugh. Screw you. This reunion was basically one huge roast session. Since I had brought my boyfriend, there was no way I could avoid being interrogated. But while I was being interrogated, for some reason, Oscar's gaze was fixed straight on me, without the slightest attempt to hide it. Morgan sat beside me and heard quite a few stories from my classmates about what I had done during senior year. He smiled and said, "Really? Our Irene is that amazing?" So that group of people shamelessly started imitating him. Really? Our Irene is that amazing? Chapter 10. After starting university, a single year was enough to bring earth-shattering changes. Not only had my classmates all grown up and changed dramatically, but the rules once used to restrict high school students no longer applied either. There was now beer among the drinks on the table. I had no idea what was wrong with Oscar. He spent the entire night drinking in silence. Most of the classmates around him had guessed that he had probably had some kind of conflict with his girlfriend. A few boys who had been close to him before even advised him to go and coax his girlfriend properly. But he refused to listen to anyone. Of course, the mood of the reunion did not go cold because of him. The private room was large enough for us to have fun. This group of people was extremely nosy. They teamed up to set a trap for Morgan, and once he lost a game, they started squeezing answers out of him. Morgan, what do you like about Irene? Hearing that, Morgan's gaze fell on my face, and he suddenly smiled. He had also been made to drink 2 glasses of beer earlier, and I still did not know how well he could hold his alcohol. Don't you think her eyes are round? Her lashes are curled, and she loves to smile? She's very cute. What was he rambling about? The gossip in my classmates' eyes could not be hidden anymore. They cheerfully continued setting traps for Morgan. Morgan, how many relationships have you been in? Morgan smiled slightly. Irene and I are each other's first love. The room instantly erupted into teasing cheers. However, amid such a lively atmosphere, a jarring voice suddenly rang out. If he's your first love, then what am I? The room instantly fell into a strange silence. Oscar was looking at me, while everyone else's eyes moved back and forth between me, Morgan, and Oscar. My eyes widened instinctively. God, Oscar had lost his mind. Hadn't he? After a moment, I tugged at the corner of my lips. Oscar, have you had too much to drink? We're just ordinary classmates. But Oscar seemed unable to understand plain words at that moment. Instead, he asked me, "We dated. Are you denying it?" Huh? My classmates all looked as if they had just stumbled upon a huge piece of gossip. I was so angry I almost laughed. Wasn't this man in a relationship? Just because he was having problems with his girlfriend, he had to trip up an old classmate? I turned to look at the boys who were closest to Oscar and asked, "Did he ever mention to you that he dated me?" After those boys exchanged glances, they all shook their heads. Then I looked around the room and turned to the girls. "Did I ever mention to any of you that I dated Oscar?" As expected, they all shook their heads too. I smiled faintly and spread my hands toward Oscar. Oscar, if 2 people dated, there should be traces left behind, right? May I ask what proof you have that we ever dated? Exactly. Maya added, your chat history, photos together, or any other traces. There should be something, right? Those words made Oscar stiffen instantly. The chat history had long been deleted. I understood him well enough. Since he had never told anyone about us, he naturally would never have thought to save screenshots. When we used to go out, he had also disliked taking photos, especially photos together. As for the gifts I had given him, I had never left any cards. Even if there were any, how they were explained would still depend on what I said. After a long while, Oscar still stubbornly refused to back down. Weren't you the one who worked so hard in senior year just to get into the same university as me? Chapter 11. I had indeed worked very hard during senior year. I had even asked Oscar quite a few questions back then. Even if he had only been the initial reason, I was still grateful to him. But bringing up the past between us in public, especially right in front of my boyfriend, and especially when he was not even single himself, made me unable to understand what he was trying to do. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to say something a little offensive, I said, looking around the room. You didn't get into the same university as me and Oscar because you didn't want to? Irene, are you mocking me? If I could have gotten in, of course I would have applied. Exactly. Who wouldn't want to go there? Can liking someone get you into a top university? Is it too late for me to drop out and repeat senior year? See? Everyone was still rational. At last, the class monitor stepped in to control the situation. He smiled and said, Oscar is drunk and talking nonsense. Don't take it seriously. Everyone, we've had enough fun anyway. How about we call it a night? Everyone left satisfied after getting a whole stomach full of gossip. I could already imagine how they would discuss Oscar and me in private. The only tricky part was that my boyfriend had also been there. It was already late. There were no more high-speed trains back to the neighboring city, so I had booked a hotel for Morgan in advance. Now I was walking him there. It was close enough to reach on foot. The summer night breeze was humid and warm. Morgan held my hand the whole way. Even when we returned to the hotel, he still did not speak, but he did not let go either. I shook his hand and said dejectedly, Fine. I admit it. I lied to you. I really did date him. Morgan looked at me and still said nothing. Reluctantly, I said, If you want to break up with me because of this, I'll agree. Morgan finally laughed in anger. You lied to me, and now you want to dump me too? How am I dumping you? If you're going to lie, then lie properly. Didn't you handle it well just now? You fooled all your classmates. So why are you confessing to me now? Morgan raised his hand and pinched my cheek. Comrade Irene. Fine. Your taste used to be terrible, but you actually admitted you dated him? Are you not going to protect my status as your first love? Oh, so that was what he was angry about. I'm sorry, I said, trying to argue my way out of it. Actually, back then, with him, it didn't really feel like dating. Morgan said, Kiss me once and I'll forgive you. That was easy. I could kiss him many times. I took off my glasses and leaned in to touch Morgan's lips, but I did not stop after a light kiss. I gently bit his lower lip. The lips that usually open so easily took me quite a bit of effort this time. Of course, I had plenty of strength. I pushed Morgan onto the bed and kissed him. Kissing was something that could easily become addictive. I had not understood that before, but ever since I kissed Morgan, we had even done things like booking a room just to make out. A light kiss on campus was fine, but making out for too long in public would be improper. After kissing, we stayed in the hotel and held each other while sleeping. After an unknown amount of time, Morgan played with my hair and asked, Are you staying with me tonight? As he asked, he nuzzled my face. After a while, I called my mom guiltily and told her I was staying out overnight with a friend. My mom already knew I had a class reunion tonight, so she did not say much. She only reminded me, You girls need to be careful when you're out. Don't go back to the hotel too late. After I hung up, Morgan hugged me from behind and laughed. Did I lead you astray, Comrade Irene? I was speechless. Chapter 12. The next time I saw Oscar was after school started again. He was waiting for me downstairs from my dorm. Irene. My footsteps paused. I looked at the person walking toward me. This time, he seemed sober. About what happened over summer break. I'm sorry, he said, lowering his eyes to look at me. I've already broken up with her. What the hell? What does your breakup have to do with me? I instinctively took a step back. A trace of hurt seemed to flash through Oscar's eyes. He looked at me and said, When we were together before, I didn't treat you well. If you're willing, I interrupted him. Oscar, when were we ever together? Oscar froze. A moment later, he gave a bitter smile. He probably had not expected that back then. He had been unwilling to admit I was his girlfriend. And now, I was not even willing to admit that I had ever dated him. I really did not want anyone to see me standing with Oscar, especially Morgan. I had promised to protect his status as my first love. In the first semester of sophomore year, Morgan, Lola, and the others entered the paper I had helped write into a competition and won an award. At the same time, after our advisor helped polish it, We submitted it to a journal, and it was eventually published. Although my contribution was not exactly huge, my name was still included. In Morgan's junior year, he published another article and also guided me through submitting one of my own. So one night, I asked him very solemnly, if we break up, would you still be willing to guide me? Besides love, do we also have a revolutionary friendship between us? Morgan? Comrade Irene, I'm currently applying for recommended admission to graduate school. Please don't joke with me like that. Fine. It was no surprise that Morgan successfully secured his graduate school recommendation. After entering his senior year, he rented a place off campus, and I would go stay there on weekends. That year, I also formed a team and entered a competition. Based on my previous experience, we achieved pretty good results. Time passed quickly. I went from being the junior girl to becoming a reliable senior like Lola. One day, Morgan stared at me for a long while, then suddenly laughed. You were very cute when you wore black-rimmed glasses before, but after switching to these rimless ones, why are you so sexy? Comrade Irene had long since become Morgan's pet name for me. But later, in bed, he did not call me that anymore. He called me Baby Irene. I had long gotten used to him calling me cute, so I did not understand where the sexy of his had come from. If there had been any changes over the past few years, it was probably that I had gotten a little thinner. My chin had become a little sharper, and my style of dressing had changed too. Morgan and I had both become rather addicted to each other. He even came up with all sorts of ridiculous theories. Baby, once a man passes 25, he's basically 60. You have to cherish my prime. Then what happens after that? Do I replace you with someone else? Morgan smiled. I'll stop living. In the first semester of senior year, I also successfully secured recommended admission to graduate school, becoming Morgan's junior once again. Graduate school was truly painful. My hair fell out in handfuls. Morgan was very anxious. Comrade Irene, I'm not going to get a bald spot while I'm still young, am I? I glanced at his still fairly thick head of hair. You won't. No matter what. We still graduated smoothly. After Morgan graduated with his master's degree, he went back home to work. His family owned a small company, and his father was waiting for his son to return and make it bigger and better. Ever since Morgan started working, I had so much monthly living allowance that I could even save some of it. I received one portion from a kind couple, and another from my boyfriend. Life was quite comfortable. Chapter 13. I had originally been torn about where to go after finishing my master's degree, until one day, my advisor said to me, I have 3 PhD spots. Do you want to consider it? So I went on to do a PhD. Doing a PhD was even more painful. Sometimes, I would cry in Morgan's arms. I want to drop out. Sob. Morgan comforted me. How about I support you financially? I cried even louder. Then, after crying, I went back to working on my research. Morgan laughed. The year I graduated with my PhD, I received an offer from a university back home. The school was pretty good. If I had not overperformed back then, I probably would have studied there, because the school was in a rather remote area. Going to Morgan's place was even closer than going home. Overall, my parents were very satisfied with the distance. Morgan was also very satisfied. One day, Morgan somehow managed to sneak into my class. He was wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, mixed in among a group of students around 20 years old. He did not look out of place at all. He even sat in the front row throughout the entire class. He stared straight at me. After class, I had just walked out of the classroom when Morgan followed me. Baby. The moment he came up, he tried to hold my hand. I was so startled that I shook him off. We're at school. You're dressed so young. Can you please keep your distance from me? I whispered. I'm begging you, don't jeopardize my teaching credentials. Morgan, aren't you surrounded by college students every day? I was afraid you'd think I was old and faded, so I dressed up before coming here. Be good. Dress up at home with this look of yours. I'm afraid someone will take a photo and report me. I won't be able to explain myself. Morgan, who had been peacocking so hard, finally behaved. That was, if he had not whispered Professor Irene into my ear that night. This man was constantly provoking me. Chapter 14 Extra. Oscar's POV. Irene's affection was intense. In senior year, her confession was sincere and moving. I did not like her, so I should have rejected her. But when the words reached my lips, they became, "If we can get into the same university, we'll talk about it then." And so, that year, I witnessed her grades rise all the way up, until even I began to feel a sense of crisis. My attention inevitably fell on her, but I still did not think she was my type. Yet Irene had spent a lot of effort studying my preferences. The gifts she gave me and the words she used to coax me were always just right. After university started, she continued pursuing me. Back then, when I looked into her eyes, I felt that perhaps I should let her have what she wanted. So we got together, but I never managed to get used to her presence. And because of that, I was unwilling to let others know about us. In my eyes, she was not particularly beautiful. She was not striking enough to be remembered at first glance. Then Irene erased every trace of that relationship. I started dating the so-called suitable girlfriend. Everything had been fine at first, until I found out that Irene had fallen in love again, and she actually said that person was her first love. Then what was I? I had never realized my own ugliness so clearly before. I had actually regretted it. But no one gave me the chance to regret it. Even the classmates I used to be close with advised me, "Oscar, we can't spread rumors about a female classmate." No one believed that she and I had once had a brief relationship. Even I myself could not produce any evidence. Later, I heard that their relationship lasted for many years. Only then did I finally realize that Irene could be fine with anyone. Morgan's POV. Irene always thought later that she had lied to me about the first love thing. She did not know that before we officially met, I had seen her twice. The first time was during military training. The little girl's face was red from the sun, and she was shouting slogans with all her might. The second time I saw her was when she was confessing to an old classmate on campus. That night, it was dark and windy. I was just passing by. I saw a cute little girl confessing to someone else, sincere and earnest. And yet, that person accepted her so reluctantly. It was terrible. Just when love first stirred in my heart, I fell for someone else's girlfriend. After overhearing part of their conversation, I realized she was my junior from the same department. I asked a junior I knew about her, and that junior happened to be her roommate. But she did not give me Irene's contact information. But that was all right. We were meant to meet. Later, Irene said I was her first love. If she said so, then of course I was.